Hello, I'm Marilyn Hemingway, and welcome to A Gathering Place. I said, I'm stepping back because we have young voices who want to be heard and they're moving on something.
Branding is really important to you and your business.
Even the basic type of technology, you'll learn it all.
And people are
Good question. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to A Gathering Place, hosted by the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. And of course, you're hanging out with me, Marilyn Hemingway, and we're back with a new show. And today, we're continuing our series featuring communities within the Gullah Geechee Culture Heritage Corridor. We're in South Carolina, but we're going to feature communities in North Carolina, communities in Georgia, and in Florida as we expand and grow the Gullah Geechee Chamber and a gathering place. Because what's a gathering place? A gathering of change makers in the Gullah community. And we have two special guests with us today to talk about the Sandridge Community in Horry County, South Carolina. And it's not too often people associate Gullah Geechee with Horry County, but yes, they are Gullah Geechee in Horry County, South Carolina. So drop your questions in our comment section. Say hello to us in the comment section as we welcome our two special guests. And our first guest is Cedric Blain-Spain of the Sandridge Community of Horry County, Conway. What's happening, Cedric?
How you doing, Marilyn? It's good to be here today. I think my screen has frozen.
No, you're here. We see you. You're moving.
Okay, you good then?
So, whoop, you just took us out. Well, while Cedric took himself out, we're going to bring in our next guest, Baba Akeem Bola of the Sandridge Community. Also, he is a native of Sandridge in Conway and Horry County. Akeem, good to have you. And Cedric is back. Let's pop him in. Cedric, I don't know where you went because you were good.
But you got the main man, Baba Akeem Bola. You got the main man on.
So we got some folks saying hello to us today. And hello, Latasha. Hello, Mazala Penny Nicholson. Hey, good to have you guys join us today. Thank you very much. Always good to have our listening and viewing audience with us on Facebook Live and YouTube. And let me remind everybody, share this. Share this with your family and friends on Facebook and YouTube, because this is some good information as we move forward. And today we're talking about the Sandridge Community in Horry County, South Carolina. And Cedric, we'll start with you. Where is Sandridge? Where is it geographically located? Paint a picture for us, and then we'll dive in with both you and Akeem to tell us about the Sandridge Community and what it's known for. But where is it located?
Thank you, Marilyn, and the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. This opportunity to be at the gathering place today. It's always an opportunity to be here with you. The Sandridge Community is located right outside not even a mile where the city limits are, but we are in the rural area of Conway. And as we say so often, we are 14 miles from Myrtle Beach, located right off of what is known Wrights Boulevard, 378. It runs Sandridge is parallel to Highway 701 South. And if you're in the Georgetown area, you know it as North Fraser Street as you get closer into Georgetown. But we are parallel between Highways 378 and Highway 701 South in the historic Black community of Sandridge, Conway, South Carolina. So that's where we're located here, sandwiched right in. And on I think we're about a mile and a half, 2 miles from the historic site of the Whittemore High School and Whittemore Elementary School back during segregation, where most of our foreparents and all of those attended in this area. And right behind me where I reside is the old Rosenwald and Felton School that was through the Sears Roebuck Foundation. So we have a lot of history here. The railroad used to come through here. So this is where Sandridge is located. It's an honor to be with you today.
Very good. So Sandridge, you said it's a historical Black community. So why is it a historical Black community? And also tell me what river is it near? Because that's important. People have to understand that water and the Gullah Geechee are, you can't inherently connect it. You cannot disconnect it. So tell me where Sandridge, what's the water source in Sandridge, and why is it his historical Black community? And Akeem, I guess we'll start with you, Akeem, on that question.
Okay. All right. Well, Alafia, which means I greet you in peace to everyone in the gathering place. Appreciate this opportunity to be here with you all. One of the main reasons why, to speak, why it's historic for me, definitely being one of the youth, or I would say the third generation from my parents of Sandridge. For me, what made it historical, that was the first place I seen where a group of African people in the diaspora had their own field or rec center. We had our own store, Richard store, Cook, and we had our own places of worship. And it was like more like a tribe of group of people who in this small area who are all kin to each other, but it was a functioning place where you had someone over here growing your food in the garden where you can do an exchange here. Then you have over here, I remember hearing stories where my mom used to speak about checkerboard, where it was one of the first established like nightclubs or spots for that area for people to go hang out to and enjoy themselves. So, and then we had our first sheriff, Mr. Joe Blaine. He was one of the first sheriffs in the historical place of Conway, South Carolina. So those type of elements just make it historical for me, especially as the youth growing up.
Very good. And so it seems like there's a lot of leadership that came out of the Sandridge community. And, you know, all too often we don't make the connections of that leadership to our ancestors and going all the way back to West Africa. And the tie-in with the water is the PD River, because I went back there with Cedric, was it about 2 years ago now, Cedric?
Yes.
That you took me back and showed me the churches and the cemeteries and the water, the PD River, and that's all connected to the plantations back in the day where the enslaved West Africans were brought because of their knowledge. And I tell people now, this is important, there's an important difference. The knowledge of how to control the water and manage the land to grow the rice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that speaks more of knowledge. When you just say, oh, we knew how to grow the rice, that is different when you say we knew how to manage the water and manage the land to grow the rice. It took knowledge. Right. So through that knowledge, that creates leadership. When you have knowledge, you have leadership. And that's it sounds like the Sandridge, from what Akeem was saying, the Sandridge community had a lot of leadership coming out of it with the first sheriff's deputy and everything. So very good. So what else do we need to know about the Sandridge community? What else do you want people to know about the Sandridge community historically? Because you told me there's somebody famous connected. Who was it? Diane Carroll? Was it Diane
Carroll to the Folk family? She's the daughter of Mabel Folk. And that hails on the Folk side of the family. And we were Edward Singletary. That comes in on that because Edward Singletary's daughter, Isabel Singletary, married Reverend Simon Folk from Fairmount, North Carolina. And Edward Singletary is for me, would be the 7th generation removed straight out of Africa. He was given the birth date of 1835. And when you talked earlier about the rivers, where I took you down to the Cane Branch AME Church, that is off the Little Petey and the Big Petey rivers, but it's known as the Punch Bowl because the way the river set, it looks like a punch bowl. So we are surrounded, actually Sandridge is actually kind of like on a little island. We have the Waccamaw River, which is about 1.3 miles in front of Sandridge off of 701 South. So if you're coming into Conway on 701 South, there's the Waccamaw River to your right. Behind Sandridge is the Crabtree Swamp, which is another water source that breeds into all these, and we say bleeds into all of these from all of these other water outlets. So we are actually surrounded because then 2.3 miles in the city area where the Waccamaw River flood is the Kingston Lake. which go around on that end and everything. So when we talk about our history and Edward Singletary being bought, he was purchased in Charleston by Mr. Singletary from Bladenburg and was carried to Bladenburg, North Carolina. And it's amazing how his daughter migrated back to this area after marrying Reverend Simon Folk. And so we have a lot of rich history, and Baba Kimbole read reference that with Joe Blaine being the first Black county cop from the Sandridge area. We have a lot of Sandridge first, and we actually did something on that. The first bank teller just the other day, Cassandra Hemingway Spain was honored. She was the first Black female police officer for the Atlantic Beach, first Black female police officer for the city of Lourdes. So Sandridge have a lot of rich history in it.
It does. It sounds like it. And let me throw up Diane Carroll's picture really quick, because them young folks might not know who she is until they see a picture. And let me tell y'all, this was she was groundbreaking in TV.
Yes,
and people don't have a clue the connection locally that she has right down the road, as we like to say, or right down the river. I also noticed something that, as we start talking, Cedric, and the history starts coming out of you and Akeem, and we drop those names like Punch Bowl. Those are things we have to remember and really take care of, because those are the local names and colloquialisms that people know locally that they're not going to know beyond that. So to explain to us the Punch Bowl, the name of Punch Bowl, and why you call it Punch Bowl, you wouldn't know this unless you're a local. And these are the historical bits and pieces that make a community what it is.
Right.
Because you could drop that word to anybody from Sandridge and they're going to understand what Punch Bowl is. And that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Akeem, you look like you want to say something, so go ahead and say whatever's on your mind, because that's why this is just a conversation. We're talking about Sandridge, so go ahead. And I think we got some questions, so go ahead, Akeem.
What you're saying is, it's true, because I feel like a lot of our people here in the diaspora, I'm going to use that word a lot, the diaspora, because, we lost touch of the historical and ancestral roots that we have here, especially people of the Low Country. We have a heavy and a serious relationship with, like we spoke earlier, Ms. Marilyn, where you spoke of the energy. Energy never dies, it only transfers. So when we lose an elder, or we lose these certain places, we're losing the actual, I guess to say the shell of it, but the actual energy of this being or this place or whatever it may be is still existing. And we forgot how to use that energy to better raise our vibrations as, the family that's coming up behind them. Like I have 4 young ones now, and I try to teach them, hey, this is where you come from, this is what it is. But we lose that energy that can help us move into the future.
That's
and
right.
You have to share those type of places, like, just like you said earlier, every time we lose an elder, that's a library that's missing. So it's so important that we pass these things on, because the ancestors, this is real.
Yeah. It is. Energy is real, as we were talking before the show. Yes. And I don't believe in ghosts, but I believe in energy.
Yes.
And you can see energy too, because I think it's on different planes, but this is rooted in our West African roots. And somebody made a note who's watched, never knew it was considered Gullah. Yes, Gullah, right from Wilmington, North Carolina, all of South Carolina coastal counties, 60 miles inland. So you got a little bit of all of Horry County, some of Williamsburg County, all of the Georgia coastal counties, and also Jacksonville, Florida, St. Augustine, Florida. And it's important for us to note that, but I say the description geographic that I said, because that is the federal designation.
Yes.
Well, about 15 years ago, when they set up the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor, that's a federal geographic description. But if you could trace your roots to North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, to the enslaved Africans, to these folks that were on these plantations, you are Gullah. You may be a generation or two removed because we had to migrate to New York, to Chicago, to Minneapolis, to Detroit, to California, because we were seeking economic opportunity and we were also leaving violence.
Right.
So there are people in New York, you're Gullah. If you trace your roots back to this area, to Horry, to Georgetown, Charleston, Beaufort, and so on, and so on. And all of us, I can guarantee Akeem and Cedric right now, we know cousins who came back every summer to stay with grandma and grandpa, and you ran around with your cousins. Y'all Gullah. They cook red rice and beans just like we cook here up in New York, fried the chicken. You Gullah. And that's what we got to start educating people about and give. We already have the knowledge. We just got to open our eyes to see what we already know.
Right.
You know, and this is why we started this series to introduce the different communities within the corridor. That just makes us easier for us to give it a geographic description. But honey, Gullah is international. We find Gullah in South America because enslaved Africans were taken from West Africa. More went to South America than North America. That's why they went to the islands, Barbados, the Caribbean islands, Bermuda, Trinidad, Tobago. Those are all Gullah. We are an international community. And that makes us very powerful. Very powerful. And that's why we want to recognize the root communities, the embedded communities, and where they are. And we give as local as a Sandridge community, as local as a Plantersville, or 9 or 10-mile community in Charleston, or Maryville, Asheville in Charleston, down in Beaufort, all those communities. And that's why we bring everybody on here to talk about the Punch Bowl. I love it when you say the Punch Bowl, and this is why we call it the Punch Bowl, because only if you are from that area will you understand what that means and what that description means. Can you remember any other particular terms that you use locally that we may not recognize, but it's descriptive of the community in Sandridge?
The whole.
The whole? So what's the whole?
All right. She said,
huh?
What's the whole?
What is the whole?
The whole, so a hole would be in Sandridge where you'll be on a main road and there may be a entry place where there's one way in and one way out. So we call it the hole. In the hole.
The hole.
Now in the hole, it may be like a little juke joint or something like that in the hole.
I got you. Very good. And we all know what the juke joints are. We all got juke joints too. So go ahead, Cedric.
In our community, I used to title our page that. The branch, we have over the branch, but they call it the branch. That's down by Bethlehem Church because you had to go over the little swamp area in the branch. So you got the branch.
I love it.
You got the hole. So when we say, no, I live in the hole and I live over the branch. And so there's different makeup of the community where we're, and then up, down, everybody say, the ones on Falk Circle say, oh, I'm on Falk Circle.
Falk Circle,
and everything. Then where I'm at, really, they used to tease us, say, oh, we didn't live in Sandridge. We lived in Willow Springs. Because where we at is Willow Springs, with the willow trees and all of those things. But we still Sandridge because Sandridge go all the way down the road and everything. So it's still Sandridge, the whole, everything. Now, my grandparents, one set of my dad's parents lived in the whole. So it was always me. Everybody that's over the years be laugh because they say, where you going? We going to the hole.
And everybody knew what you were talking about.
Right. Are you going to the wreck? Where you going to the wreck?
Not the wreck. The wreck.
The wreck. The wreck. Yeah, the wreck.
The wreck.
That's true. That's true. The wreck. I got you. You know, and y'all, that is actually got a language because you know, the wreck. That is the combination of those African tribal languages, English and Spanish. When we hear somebody talk direct. And unfortunately, after the Civil War, people were taught, you know, oh, that's bad English. That wasn't bad English. That was a whole new language created out of the worst of circumstances. Yeah. And now today in 2021, we starting to appreciate this even more. And why we are focusing on these communities, because it just paints a beautiful picture when you hear these terms about the whole, or, you know, the branch, going over the branch, you know, that just paints such a beautiful picture of our community. So it's just wonderful to have you here. We have some questions. Does this include Madam Mayor? All right, so it's the Madam Mayor, Blaine Bellamy, I believe. Is she from the Sandridge community?
Yes, yes.
All
This
right,
is where
very good.
her roots are. Her father was Lieutenant Job Abraham Blaine, the first Black county cop.
All right. So once again, that leadership, generational leadership, folks. So yes, Mozella Penny, I hope that answered your question. That yes, the roots of the mayor of Conway, and is she the first African American mayor and the first female mayor?
Yes.
All right. Very good.
Second female, but first Black, and second female, first Black female.
Very good. Very good. That's good to hear that. Love to see that leadership coming out of the Sandridge community. So this is good news about the Sandridge community. Sandwich has wonderful history, but I know both of you understand, and Akeem has talked about this a little bit already too. Our history is always under threat.
Yes.
You know, always under threat for historical reasons and also for economic reasons. So you guys have recently, I know Cedric Blain-Spain has been out here doing the work. And, you know, Cedric, I did grab pictures because you took me around one day. I went down there and we spent a good half day just you showing me around in the Hemingway Cemetery and everything, y'all. So yes, y'all, there is a Hemingway Cemetery, and yes, there's a family connection. And this is really, I'm going to show a quick picture. This is Cedric under the arc of the cemetery.
Akeem loves that
really
photo.
Oh my God, that's my favorite.
Baba Akeem loves that photo there.
Oh, man,
I love it too. It's a beautiful picture. It really is.
Yeah.
And I never knew until Baba Akeem Bola told me. I didn't know the photographer, the journalist, caught that photo of me in the middle of the arch. I never knew it until he was telling me about it.
Yes, yes. Because the arch, you know, in African society, anytime you go into a cemetery, the doorway always leads to the entrance of the underworld, or where they say the ones that bury in the ground. So anytime you see a gateway like that, it's always an entrance where you leaving the physical and going to the realm of where the ones sleep. So when I see you being an usher and you guiding in that walkway right there, that's ancestral, because it's pretty much saying you the gatekeeper of leading us into that place of where our ancestors sleep at. So I love that photo there, man. That's beautiful.
It really is. It's a beautiful photo. It's just very expressive and moving. And Akeem, I love that you described it that way, because it does look like he's welcoming. Yes. There's something going on there, Cedric, beyond you just being there at that time. Did you feel anything different, Cedric? You're obviously moved to be a community advocate, and something leads you back there, because you've taken me to that cemetery, and here's another picture of you pointing out some of the headstones, and you really broke it down to me, the family history, and shared with me your the family book with all the generations of history. That's a beautiful thing. So when you go there, do you feel a different energy? Are you driven to save that story?
Yes, and it's to me it's overwhelming. I think about Dr. Maya Angelou said, if we don't know where we come from, we don't know where we're going. And so it's an honor to be there. It's a different feel. It's a connection, like Baba Akeem Bole says, to our ancestors. And to visit the grave of my great-grandmother 8 times removed, born in 1829, and one I believe came out of Africa and was one of the first graves that was buried there in 1905. And to Hannah Hemingway, who originally hailed out of the Stuckey area of Williamsburg County. So it's so it's a surreal moment, and that's where it's very touching, because you feel like, because of integration, and we as African Americans, let me say Blacks, being so integrated, it seems we have entered several generations that do not appreciate culture. And to have Baba Akeem Bole at his age have a heart for the community, of his native community and in all African American communities, and his connection to the ancestors and everything. It's a real moment, because you find like, okay, it's not all lost. There are young people that appreciate culture, that appreciate history. Some I say are so integrated that, as it was with our ancestors, one of the most heart-wrenching thing is when you're doing research and you see a name, but then when you start getting like to 1860, 1835 and on back, it's a number in the library, in the research files, in genealogy. It really grabbed you that the slave masters, those that enslaved our ancestors, didn't think enough of us to write our names down. And going back to Edward Singletary, it was believed to be he came to America when he was about 15 or 16 years old. The slave, the man that bought him in Charleston, gave him the name of his son, Edward Singletary. So his name wasn't even Edward. Then they gave him the birth date of 1835, but he was older than that. He said he want to believe he was about 18 from the history passed down. So I want our people, even in the Sandridge community, to know that when we think about what is happening with them, with a potential highway coming through the community, when we look at the Phillips community of Charleston, when we look at other communities, and especially African American communities, because as you say so often, Marilyn, I thank you with the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce. I thank you for being the founder and visionary of the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce and the Gathering Place, because it's helping so many of us reconnect to our heritage, reconnect to the ancestor, to take pride in our communities, because you stay on us all the time about doing the history of our communities and telling the story. So I appreciate your hard work with the chamber. And it seemed like sometimes we being stubborn and we're not moving fast enough, but we appreciate your hard work and we want the chamber to continue, because we want our young people to know, and we are not outnumbered in our communities. We're just not organized like we should be.
That's it.
And because that we are so integrated that a lot of them think because they went to school with the others and my cousin called the Caucasians, they're their best friends. And these Black Republicans, I'm gonna say it like that, and even some Democrats, regardless of political affiliation, we get it twisted that we think sometimes because of their showing up to events that they're loyal, because of certificates and the gifts, but it's the policy, it's the votes at the table that is destroying our community. Because it was the vote of county council in 2016 that created a referendum that never had Sandridge in the referendum for a highway to come through our community. The highway was supposed to come through where they're building the Jamestown Baptist Church off of 701 South and 9th Avenue, the parallel there. Sandridge was never thought of for this highway.
That's it.
But because of the industry and then because of developers, let's be truthful, the highway benefits the developers. Yep. They're buying up all the property. So if you want a straighter road to Myrtle Beach, this has like several major curves in it. You do better to stay on 501 and go straight into Myrtle Beach. But it's all about the economy. Economics play a major role in it. And then they figure, hey, that Black community don't mean anything. And then when we have Blacks from the community, like I said, that are so integrated and say, oh, that's my friend. Oh, he on city council. Y'all vote for him. That guy on city council and county council don't have your best interest at heart. You might have went to high school with them. You might have went to college with them, but they are not your friend. And this is what is hard getting people to understand in our community, that they're so, Tim Scott called it the woke culture. They so woke. And yeah, they better be woke. What's that song about Harold Melvin and the Blue Note? Wake up, everybody.
Wake up, everybody.
Okay, they better wake up. Just because we work on these jobs, we have to understand, and I know I'm not going to take up Keem and everybody's time, that we got to speak up. We got to understand who our friends are, and we can't get it twisted because a county or city councilman give us a pen, give us a plaque that they're our friends. It's the policies that they're voting on, whether it be in full council or executive session, that is taking our community funds. And one of the county councils said, it's not about one community. It's about moving traffic around the whole county. But you're destroying an historic Black community, where now in our community, 7 historical homes and sites stand to be demolished for a highway, because in Horry County, and the city of Conway, there is really no protection. No Black community is really considered, according to the historical maps, historic. And this is why we have to do the work. And we need to make haste, as Marilyn always say to us. And it's an urgency now that we work now. And it's almost like we're being reactive rather than proactive.
Proactive. Yeah.
You know, and it's the same thing that what people don't understand. This happened in Hilton Head.
Mm-hmm.
It happened in Pawleys Island, Merle's Inlet, and Litchfield. And I say that because when I was growing up, it wasn't known as Waccamaw Neck. It was known either as Pawleys Island, Litchfield, Merle's Inlet. Waccamaw Neck is actually a term developed by developers to sell the area. You know, and there are a whole lot more Black folks over there who owned land, and they got pushed off. And what we're seeing happening now in Horry County is now they're moving away from the beaches because the density of people is so high, but also because of climate change with the rising tides and the rising sea levels. Now they're getting pushed back from the coastline. And who's on the inland? The Black folks, the Gullah Geechee. You see it in Georgetown County, on the western portion of the county. We've already been pushed off of the coast. Now, because of high density, the number of people, traffic issues, rising tides, rising sea levels, they're now planning to move further inland. And the problem is a lot of our Black-owned land is in heirs' property.
Yes.
And people don't have clear title.
Right.
So you need to get clear title, folks. Y'all need to get educated. We got something coming up. Gotta get your chamber. Y'all gonna be hearing more about it because I don't offer problems, but I offer solutions.
That's right.
So the solutions are coming, folks. We just got to get together and, as Cedric has said, get organized. Get organized. Akeem, tell us some more. I know I'm so happy to see a young person such as yourself out here just trying to educate, doing the work. Tell us a little bit about your journey and what led you to where you are right now in connection with your community and coming out of Sandridge. What's your story?
Well, my story, first I'm going to start with Dr. John Henry Clark always said, history is the best qualified to teach. And what led me on this journey, I moved from Sandridge, probably about 10 years ago when just young, just had my first child, was like, hey, I want to get out the country. I want to see more. Went off to college, came back home, and we ended up moving to Florida. Got to Florida, I was like, this is a culture shock. I'm not used to this. I'm not used to being able to walk down the road and go and see my grandma or going to the next door neighbor to borrow something that someone I know. It just was culture shock. And I just started my own journey, just growing up, wanting to know more about my culture, my history, and want to know why we as African people in diaspora always are placed in these predicaments. So end up going through, met this brother at I was working at a mortgage company and met this brother. He just gave me a bunch of books and knowledge. And I started getting deeper into it and learning more of my history and learning about Horry County, or the Low Countries, what they call it, South Carolina, how we had so many wonderful people coming out of South Carolina, and how growing up, we used to always get picked on by, oh, you country, or y'all Gullah Geechee folk, y'all got that weird talking way, or y'all got a swang when y'all talking, things like that. You know, growing up, we always looked at it like, oh man, like, oh, here come them country folk. But we had so much love around the world for the Low Country area. And one day I met this brother and he said, hey, man, you should come out here. And it was an ancestral event. And when I went to this ancestral event, they was, pouring libations, remember the ones, and something just hit me in my heart. And I went through that journey, started going through, reading more books, going through that walk, allowing the energy or whatever this may be that's trying to lead me down this road, lead me until I got initiated to become an ancestral priest in the traditions of the Nigerian traditions of Ifa. Or Yoruba traditions. And me and Cedric, we was talking, and the road came up, and I was sitting there, and I had this dream, and I woke up, I was like, I got to see about getting this read. And we do divination to see, like, what's your outcomes, what's the good, what's the bad can come out of this. And they was like, it was you who's in this position to wake up your ancestral lineage, to allow them to come in and step in and use their energy to allow this to stop. And since then, I don't know, all of a sudden Cedric used to call me and he was throwing just names at me. I was like, who is this person? He was like, I don't know. I was just led to give you this name. Oh, here's a new name. You remember this person? We had A, B, C, and D. He was just going through, and I'm like, wow, okay, I'm listening and I'm gonna follow the instructions. And we've been working together ever since. And it's amazing how, I love my elders. I'm one of those ones, when I see an elder in the room, you're the first one I'm gonna bow to, I'm gonna speak to. I'm big about elders. And in Sandridge, we have elders who are they're gold in the wisdom. Like, I don't use medicine every day. I remember my grandma and other elders, what I seen, if I got stung by a bee, they'll take tobacco and put it on the sting and the sting will draw out. Or if I got cold and sick, I didn't go out and get cold medicine. They will make up some medicine, go out in the backyard of the tree, put out some tree, some moss or something, put it in some liquor or something like that and say, hey, give it a minute with some honey and then drink it. Those type of things to me, like I always tell my friends, they always, hey, you got something over there you can fix up for me? Yeah, let me make you up something. That to me, I feel like it's just what made me who I am today, because it's so much wisdom and power in knowing that my family was able to go out in the woods and make these type of things from nothing. And I have a teenager now who's in society with technology, and I'm having the battle now, like trying to work that with tradition and fighting against the world, as we would say, as the world today. And I'm happy to be on this journey, and I'm going to continue to fight for them. I'm going to continue to pour my libations. I'm going to continue to call out their names every chance I get. I'm going to continue to tell their stories. I'm going to continue to do the work of my ancestors, because they're not done. The work that we're going to continue to strive. Sandridge, I'm going to say it, the road's not going to happen. I just it won't happen because of the power and the sweat, blood, and tears that's in that dirt that's already been given. It won't happen. So they can entertain it all they like, but yeah.
Akeem, I am so glad you said what you said, the connection with the ancestors. Our ancestors still inform us, the connection to the environment. And I work with a lot of environmental groups, and I tell them, I said, our community, we've been environmentalists from the beginning. We always reduce, reused, and recycle, because we, in many ways, had no choice. Yeah. But we don't use the term environmentalist. I use it now because of the spaces that I work in, but we always been environmentalists, like you were saying, with the tobacco and putting it on the wound. And the bee sting. That's what we knew about. Or the spider webs. This is how deep it gets. Spider webs in the wound. Now the scientists are in the labs trying to figure out how to take the spider webs and make bandages out of it. When we already knew, because of the West African heritage, you go get the spider web, spin it up, put it on the wound, it bounds a wound.
Yes, that's right.
Or pine straw tea.
Yes.
Our ancestors made pine straw tea.
That's it.
This is why it's important that the Gullah Geechee Chamber, not only are we about economic uplift, we are about environmental justice, because we understood, because of our knowledge of the water and management of the land, it was not only about growing rice and indigo, it was what nurtured and sustained us.
Right.
And what gives you sustenance, you have to take care of.
That's right.
You have to take care of it, because it's taking care of you. So we must have clean water. So yes, it's about a highway coming through that's removing houses, but also highways do what? They bring pollution.
That's it. Because everybody don't care or respect your area like you do.
That's right. That's why you have to speak up.
Yeah.
That's why you have to come on shows like this. This is why you have to get organized. That's why you have to have organizations. And correct me if I'm wrong, Cedric. The Sandridge Community Improvement Council is one of the organizations.
That's one of them out here. The Sandridge Community Improvement Council was started, I think, in the mid '80s, and they the one formed that is the governing body for the Sandridge Rec Center. and everything. And then we have the Sandridge Community Fellowship, which is the fellowship of the 4 churches in the community. They have that where the pastors lead that. And then as a result of the few years back, and then with the road coming through to fight against that, we started the Sandridge Sandridge Community and Concerned Citizens, which is another subsidiary of the Sandridge Community Association.
So you guys are out there with these organizations. So I'm going to encourage those who are in the community to get involved, keep these organizations together, and speak out, folks, on what's going on in our community. Something happened most recently, and I have a picture, Cedric, I'm going to share while you talk about it. There was a historic building that was removed in the Sandridge community, the Sandridge Community Building. And it's how it started, and that's a beautiful building. I must say and how it's going. That building has been demolished. It's no longer there. Can you tell us what happened?
And let me say, as a disclaimer, I'm not authorized to speak for the Sandridge Community Association, Improvement Council. Let me say I'm speak for the association, but not the Improvement Council, although I'm a member of that. But let me say, as a community and concerned citizen, although the building was dilapidated, Mr. Richard Williams, our cousin, who Baba Akeem Bole referenced earlier, he was an entrepreneur in the community. He was he had his own demolition company, and he had a home building company. What happened, Richard Williams, along with others back in the day, like Mr. Sam Oliver, and oh God, the names are leaving me now. Boy, that's bad. And Mr. Lonnie Alston. When they got rid of old homes in the Myrtle Beach area and other places across the county, they would take that, and this is add to the historical piece of our community, because they would say, oh, those homes wasn't built. They were built from substandard material, because blacks could not afford to build homes. So Richard Williams was the one to demolish a lot of the beach homes when they started developing more beach homes. He had a moving company along with Cab, Baba Akeem Bole's grand uncle. They moved houses. So a lot of homes in our community were owned by others. They got them for $1. They just had to move them. So Richard Williams would do that, but out of his own dime. You saw that building. He constructed the building and began the process of it so that the community could have a gathering place, so we can have somewhere to go to call our own. And it's a 2-story. It was meant to be where the offices or something upstairs. Downstairs was like a communal area. And over the years, because of some minor tension in the community, the building became dilapidated and not used. But the city of Conway offered a few years ago that the building, they wouldn't make it 2-story anymore, but they could take that building because the foundation was laid so well that Richard Williams and them did a good job, that the city said, we can take that building and renovate that building and everything. And we know they said it was drug activity, a lot going on. But I wanted them in my post with that. I wanted our people of the community to understand what happened. Here we are in a community that you got a historic building that we could work to renovate, right, if we come on one accord. But they use the oppressors of the community. They couldn't find money to renovate, but you can find money to tear down a building. To demolish the average house costs you about $3,000 to $4,000. That's money we could have put into restarting that building to get it back going again. But we have this, it's a power grab even in Black communities. It's the egos, it's the power grab. And then my thing with the building going down, it's like, you don't know what you did to history. Right. Y'all agreed to tearing down, and some say it's not historic, but it was over 25 years old, so it's considered on the local historical register. That just tell you how much some don't understand about history. It could have gone on the local historical registry. Well, because of the modifications would have been some gripes, but it's still there. And my thing with that, I wanted them to realize, you use your oppressors of the community. When we work for the oppressor and get them to come in, because the people that tore down the building, the company is the one building the subdivisions. And I was trying to get our people to understand the oppressors you brought them in. This is why the highway is trying to come through the community, because the oppressors want to make it convenient for their subdivisions. You use the oppressors to tear down an historic building in a community. And really, the fact of the matter is, and I said it on that, if you saw it on that post, it was illegally torn down because it's the community that had the final say. So it's not a board of directors. And so I want us to come together. And that's, again, when I say we so integrated, we thought it was our friend. They immediately moved to tear down the building, and a lot of them didn't even know the building was being torn down. And so it's history. And when we work with them to tear down our history, we have nothing to leverage on. I told them, you got folks that's 70 some years old that live behind that building that stand to have their house torn down. They've been born and raised there. But when you tore down the building in front behind them, you gave no leverage to save their property. You work with the oppressors to tear down your own community. And I'm going to say this on live, and I don't have nothing. I'm not afraid. They don't know the repercussions of the ancestral world and the spirit world for tearing down that building. They are not going to prosper. I don't care how it look like they prosper. They can say what they want about me. They can say what they want about anybody else. When they demolition that building, I'm here to tell them it's not going to be well for them. I don't care if their family listening. I don't even care if they listening. The point is that it's sad that the older generation, that's a generation ahead of us and 2 generations ahead of a king, don't even appreciate their community enough to save their own community.
Right.
That's the heartbreaking thing.
And give us the ones that's here, you know, like myself, and it's a countless other cousins that I know we speak on the daily who ready to take that mantle and say, hey, we ready to stand up for Sandridge, but give us that opportunity to do so. And one thing we have to learn, and I just, to my older community, understand and accept when it's time to pass it down. Because by ignoring the youth, you're now pushing them away from their own community because they feel they have no say so or moving about in their own community. So it's just allow us to do the work. Don't say, well, y'all don't know. We are able to do the work. So we have to come together, the older and the young, because it's the wisdom of the older and just the new way of thinking for the youth that can come in and do great things for the community. So don't
Marilyn,
wait.
And let me say something to clarify that even the board of directors of the community, they didn't even know the building was coming down. It wasn't until I made the post, because it was other in government of Horry County government. The building went down. They said, what? Oh, we had talked about it, but they didn't tell us the building was coming down. So it's so much tied in there that we got to get back. And like Akeem said, you got a younger generation now. They take this community to heart. They come out there they come back home. They have a paintball thing. They do more at the rec than I do because I'm always in the other field of doing work. They come back. Those young people get together at that rec. And it's heart-wrenching to see that the older ones, they're agreeing with the oppressors to tear up this part. When the young people value this part, when the younger generations, they want to save the part. And as Akeem say, but it's kind of like, we the board. They need to put the board on the board. Like the song, one of them religious songs, take the deacon off the board and put the board on the deacon. That's what they need to do.
I got to remember that, Cedric.
Old school.
you know, and all too often, we are a traumatized community. So let's look at the big picture for a moment here. Yeah. We are a traumatized community. And it's not until as individuals we recognize our trauma are we going to heal. And that covers all generations, young, middle age, and old. All right. And the trauma reflects itself when older folks, our elders, not all, but too many elders say, well, y'all don't know what you're talking about. Well, if the young people don't know what they're talking about, it is the responsibility of the elders to open your mouth and feed us the knowledge. You know, so that's where you at fault, elders who sit there and say, well, y'all don't know what you're talking about. But it's your responsibility to feed us the knowledge. And the young folks and middle-aged folks, it's our responsibility to close our mouth sometimes and open our ears to receive the food. And all of that, it doesn't happen the way it should because we are a traumatized community generationally. And until we take ownership of that, we will not own our story. We will not own our history. We will not own generational wealth. We will not own our land.
That's right.
And really, in actuality, we actually don't own anything. We are just caretakers.
Caretakers, that's it.
We're just caretakers.
That's right.
Of the story, of the history, etc. But because of our trauma, we don't recognize that. So we tend to hold on to something. And anybody will tell you when you hold on to something too tight, what happens?
You lose it.
You lose
it.
God help us.
You either kill it, you squeeze it, but you lose it. Ultimately, you lose it. So when let's circle back to the beginning of our conversation. We talked about energy. You need to be careful of the energy that you send out, because that is what you're going to attract.
That's it. You can speak life or you can speak death.
That's right. That's right. And that speaks towards that trauma that we've been dealing with for such a long time. And it does reflect when someone can go take a building and find it easier to tear down than to build up. The buildings are just simply that physical manifestation of that trauma.
That's right.
You know, and y'all, buildings are important because they reflect who we are. They reflect what we value.
And Marilyn, when we talk
always
about
amazed me that we can always find money to tear down, but we cannot find money to build up. Yeah, go ahead, Cedric. You want to say something?
And end with that, when we talk about cousin Richard Williams, was also stand to be demolished. Richard actually had the third store in our community. His historic store, which was converted into an apartment complex by his daughter, is stand to be demolished. That was the third store that was opened in the community back during the segregation, and then on into, our time, fully in our time, but Richard Williams store. And when we think about it, let me also, because we always represent like cousin Joe Blaine, do you know the first Black female bus driver for Greyhound is Richard Williams' daughter, Joyce Williams Cook? She was the first Black female bus driver for Greyhound from the Sandridge community. Annis Austin Staley, she was the first Black female regional vice president for the McDonald's Corporation. She's from Sandridge. Sandridge have such rich history and where people are from out here. Jean Blaine-Skeeters was hailed as one of the first women barbers from the area, in this area. And she sung with Billy Stewart, with an R&B band. She traveled with them. And so when we think about our rich history that really need to be put into writing and where we came from, not only are the houses, when we think about the Richard Williams store, his house, this is the guy that provided so many people with a home. And some of the homes are still standing in the community. His historic house stand to be demolished because of a highway. And there's some people in the community, and we throw this in there, will say, oh, Cedric doing all that talking and rabble-rousing, we ain't gonna get just money for our property. No, there's some things money, listen, there's some things money can buy.
That's right.
And all money ain't good money, as the old folks would say. So when we think about the rich heritage, when we think about what is going on, I mean, it break my heart. I mean, it break a lot of our heart. And the thing is, what I try to tell them, it's a county funded project. They're only gonna get 70% max for their value. Now there are other programs they'll put them in. So I want the people to understand, not only our people could lose their home, I'm gonna put it that way. They're trying to make them lose it. The max they'll get, because it's a county funded project, is 70%. The DOT will put them in a grant program to help them pay off their mortgage if they have a mortgage, ongoing mortgage or whatever. So there's so many loops to this, that even as Akeem says, even right now, and you talked about it, Marilyn, if we harness that energy into one, let me tell you, that road, we won't have to worry about tomorrow. It'll be gone tonight, because county council wouldn't get any rest. They wouldn't be, it would be troubling, and it's still going to be troubling them. Let me tell you what happened earlier, Maryland, in this community. SC&G came and put on a pipeline. They came through the community one time. Now we got a pipeline with over 15 to 1,700 during the wintertime when it's at full pressure, PSIs running through our community of a SCNG. SCNG told us we'll use eminent domain. They did it. They condemned my cousin's house. They condemned the property. But what happened to SCNG and Scanner? They went belly up. Dominion brought them out. I want everybody to know on this live, if we come together like Baba Akeem Bole brought us together, and we said, this ain't going to work. We're going to stand united. We're going to put out good energy. A whole corporation came down. We told them, you can put the pipe down, but it won't be well with y'all. You can plan. They out there today. I saw the surveyors today when I went to my cousin's house. They all in the field making the markings for the highway. I said, woe be unto y'all. It won't be well. It won't be under y'all. You can mark all you want to. They mark it themselves. They better go ask SCNG if they can find them. What happened when you mess with historic Black communities? A whole corporation came down. And even with your fight with Santee Cooper, all of them, listen, we have the power. We have what we need. And this is what I want to say. And I'm sorry for just talking.
Go ahead, man.
We as African Americans, we were spiritual before they brought us across the water. We were spiritual then. It was the white man gave us the Bible. We had spirituality. We didn't get no religion after they enslaved us. Our people had they were spiritual in Africa. Where you think we get all of this from? My mother and them used to thought I was crazy in the yard. Some of them say I am. Because I'm out in the yard like the Indians doing some kind of rain dance and everything. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know. Went from children, even a king, he was brought up in the community. In the summertime, we all out there beating on buckets. Where did we learn that from? It was in us. We take pot lids. We take the Coca-Cola bottles and sticks and shake them with rocks in and make music. That was in us. No one had to teach us that. That's what we did in the yard, hitting on the side of the building. On the tin, making music. So we have it in us, but we have allowed the Europeans to give us some false narrative about our spirituality. No, we need to reconnect. I'm glad some of the churches closed in this pandemic and they don't need to open back up because some of them was powerless. Okay, I'm through.
Nah, but no, you right. No.
Today, Cedric.
Hey, brother. Hey, I tell you, I love Cedric. No, but on the real, because when we think about it, man, I mean, where's that faith of a mustard seed? You know, we have these people who speak on this power that they speak so much of on these Sundays, but when it comes to something like this and coming to Sandridge, where's that faith of a mustard seed?
Exactly.
Instead of speaking, saying, "Oh, well, it's going to come." Say, "Well, you know what, community? Let's get together. Let's have these prayer meetings. Let's pray. Let's come together as a community because there's something about gathering together." African people don't do things solo. That's why we always fail at things. We are a family unit. We are together. Yes. We shake mountains when we come together. So we said you touched on a lot on that there, brother.
Cousin Craig put up there, play them spoons. You right about Craig and no cousin Craig know about that. And I saw they talk about the false narrative. That's right, cousin Craig. We gonna beat them spoons, boy. We going all the way out.
That's it.
But it's interesting that you said it when we gather together, because that's why a gathering place is simply a gathering. We gathered under the trees. We gather in the kitchens. We gather on the front porch. We gather at the cookout. That's where we gain our knowledge.
Yeah.
You know, we do have the power. But because we are so traumatized from being enslaved, our ancestors is in our DNA, and not only the end of Reconstruction, Jim Crow, lynching, currently the new Jim Crow, the prison system.
Yes.
And that's actually in the 13th Amendment. Slavery never ended. It just evolved.
Oh my goodness.
So the trauma has never been dealt with.
That's it.
And we need as individuals to get the knowledge to recognize that. Yeah. This is why we need to have a gathering. Yes. This is why we need to have a gathering place. Yes, this is why we need to, as individuals, get that healing so we can be open to the knowledge. And once you get the knowledge, you will start growing because you will put it into practice. We're out of practice.
That's
We're
right.
simply out of practice
Yeah.
and gathering together and sharing that knowledge and growing. But it can be done. That's where the power comes from. We got to practice. And I really think more of us are starting to learn that. Even if we're just watching this show, even if we show up to the community meeting, even if we show up, even some of our churches, not all of them, some of them are lost, but as long as they keep us apart from each other, they will retain control. That's what they do. And when you know who you are as an African American, as a descendant of enslaved Africans from West Africa that had beautiful knowledge, you will then reach out to others.
Yes.
You will reach out to other people of color, the Native Americans, our Asian American and Pacific Islander brothers and sisters. Because if you globally, the majority are my people of color.
That's right. That's right.
It's only in America that we've been, in the United States of America, that we have been brainwashed in thinking that this is a majority white country, when globally it's people of color who are the majority. It was described by tribes. People were not described by white or black. That's why race, you will start to understand that race is a false construct. People were tribal.
Yes.
You had tribes. You didn't have black people in Africa. You had tribes.
That's it. That's it.
But you got to get the knowledge, and you got to start practicing that knowledge by gathering together and seeking that power and growing that power to have that understanding. Yeah. This is why we have shows like A Gathering Place. This is why I was moved to name this show A Gathering Place.
Yeah.
Because it's our time, y'all. It's time.
Yeah.
That's why we're getting so much pushback.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They can't articulate it, but they know. That's why they stormed the Capitol.
Yeah,
they know that there's movement going on globally and locally. But you got to know from whence you come. You got to know about the Sandridge. You got to know about the Plantersville. You got to know about the St. Phillips. You got to know about the 10 Mile community, because the Gullah Geechee, and we talked about this before the show, we are the closest you will get to Africa. Because let's just be honest, most of us in our lifetime won't ever get enough money to go to Africa. But the closest you will get to Africa is come back home to Sandridge. Come back home to Georgetown. Come back home to Charleston. Come back home to Beaufort. Come back home to Cipolo Island in Georgia. You get Africa. You get Africa. So when we talk about the punch bowl, when we talk about the hole, when we talk about the branch, all we're doing is channeling the ancestors, channeling those libraries, channeling that knowledge, and that gives you power. And you are right. They got temporary victories that are going to end. In the long run, they will not prosper.
No, they will not. That's right.
But we got to fight the battles.
Yes.
But we got to fight them from a place of knowledge. This is why we come and have these shows. This is why we're going to have more communities on here so people can see where the power is. Y'all come on back home.
Yes.
We welcome you.
Hey, let me show you this book. Hold on, let me grab this book.
Okay.
And let me say, you got to get cousin Craig Blain on. He's a powerful source. I love his posts on social media. One day you got to have him on.
Well,
that's the mayor's son.
I already told y'all before we have the show. This is Sandridge episode number 1. We're gonna bring y'all back on. I'm doing an African American mayor senior series also. So my first black mayor on was Frank McCleary from Andrews. I'm going to be bringing on the different mayors. I am going to continue the community series also, the different communities. So yes, he will be welcome to come back on. Hakeem, do you have the book?
Yeah, so we was talking about genealogy. You mentioned that earlier and about tribes and how I found this book when I started looking up my genealogy, the Indian tribes of North America. Anybody that's watching, pick this book up. But this book, it's a whole, like this whole middle piece, if you can see, I got it divided in here, that speaks on the Low Country, South Carolina, and how they defeated a lot of these colonizers that came over here. They defeated them by the Gullah Geechee Wars. It's powerful stuff in here, and how we got Horry County PDs and all that today is in this book. But this book is from, I mean, this book, it's an old book.
Well, we are actually over an hour, y'all. We're gonna have to start wrapping up. But go ahead and show us the second.
This one,
the second book.
The sister is called The Yamasee and the Gullah Geechee Wars, The Unconquered. But I don't know, get my camera right. Check this book out. You know, you say history is the best qualified to teach. You got to know your history. When you know your history, you know where you're going and you know how to move about. But
Exactly. And y'all, is out there. Y'all reach out to me. They want to know, where can they purchase the book, Akeem? Is it Amazon? Where can they go online? We prefer that y'all go to Black-owned bookstores, but go ahead.
That's what I'm talking about, Marilyn.
You can find it on Amazon. But I can put, once we get the post, I can go on the actual Facebook page and put the author's name on here, and you can order it from her.
Okay.
Good luck with this book. This was, I don't even know how I got the book. I would just say it was divine, but it came from an old library. I don't know how I got it, but it just showed up one day at the door.
I will let folks know this. I think about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, Dr. Sam Livingston from Georgetown. He's a professor at Morehouse College, and he is writing his book. And the book is The Gullah Geechee Origins of African American History. Let me tell you how deep this is, folks, because African American history is American history.
That's it.
So if Gullah Geechee is the origins of African American history, Gullah Geechee is the origins of all American history. 1526 is the date. 1526. When the Spanish brought enslaved Africans who escaped the boat when they landed and they intermingled with the Native American tribes. Y'all, if you did your DNA, you do your DNA.
Yes, that's it.
So when y'all PD, that stuff will start coming up. All those Native American tribes disappeared. They didn't disappear.
We are the tribes.
We are the tribes.
Listen, Marilyn, my grandmother has a first cousin. Her name was Iowa Angerone Davis Austin. Angerone, Native American, Iowa Angerone. That was her first cousin's name. That Indian, that Native American connection.
Yeah, but we're miseducated.
Yes,
they don't want us to know that. That's why when you understand your African history, you understand where you came from. You cannot discount your Native American brothers and sisters. Y'all, that's our family. You cannot say no to the Asian Americans. So blacks out there, y'all hating on Asian Americans because some of us are, because we've been miseducated. Stop that. Stop it. That's family. Because who you think was in the islands first?
All right.
Before they brought the enslaved Africans to the islands were natives.
Exactly.
And they didn't just disappear. We are the natives because we intermingled.
That's
y'all,
right.
We had sex. They knew with each other and created more generations.
Right.
All right.
Don't get it confused. Don't get it confused that they did not they brought Chinese to the islands. There are Chinese Jamaicans right now to this day because they were brought to the islands. We all family.
Yeah. Yes. You go into Sandridge, you're going to see a mix of all that.
Yes, Lord. Yes.
Stop Asian hate. You got to say that because that's family.
Exactly.
Don't get it twisted. But because we've been miseducated.
Yes.
And it comes back to the Sandridge and the PD. Y'all, it's all connected, y'all. Y'all, this has been a good show, but I got to wrap it up. We can go this way. I got to bring y'all back.
Yes. Well, let me say this in my appeal, Marilyn. Let me say this. Coming up this fall are municipal elections. We need African Americans, blacks, to run for public office because it's those that elected the county council and city council that appoint persons to the historical preservation board, to other boards and commissions that affect our communities. So we need folks to run for public office. Now that's just the bottom line. And we don't need folks just that look like us, but don't have our best interests at heart. We don't need a token. And we know you have to work across the aisle, but it's getting ready for those to file for municipal elections in this 2021. I'm encouraging those out there listening, run for public office. Our young people, you need to run for public office. Your future, our future's at stake. You see what they're doing, not only in Georgia, but with voting in South Carolina.
They do it in South Carolina.
South Carolina, they just introduced another bill yesterday, from the Horry County area about voter ID and all this just to get an absentee ballot. Talking about it worked for Georgia. So we need to run for public office, and then we need to be proactive to make sure we have all the mechanisms in place. And those of you that live in the city, in municipal areas, go out and vote in your municipal elections. Go vote because you have a say-so who's elected to office. Run for public office. We need young people. We need other people. Come on, y'all. Let's run for public office. Thank you so much for having us at Together Place. I'm honored to share this with my cousin Baba Akeem Bole and my cousin Girl today, and look forward to others from the Sandridge being on at part 2. So thank you, Marilyn, and the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce for this Gathering Place moment.
Yeah. Thank you, Cedric, for joining me. Akeem, thank you for joining me. Also, we're going to have both of you back, and we'll bring some more family on also to talk about Sandridge and more. This has been a beautiful show. And
let me thank Marilyn. Let me thank Ms. Mozella Nichols, attorney, who ran legal aid in Horry County for 17 years over here. So she's been a great mentor of mine and worked with her along on the state level. So let me say I saw her comments and many others. So we thank all of the commenters. But I certainly want to reach out to say to her, she's been a great mentor with me in politics also. So I just want to reference Ms. Mozella Penny Nicholson.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And Akeem, I'm going to ask you if you can go to the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce Facebook page and post the names of those books on there and the authors so folks can look. I did post it in the comments, but if you could also do that with the author names so folks can do the research and get those books, it would be deeply appreciated. But y'all get your knowledge. We got some more today. We're looking for some more in the future. If you want to come on a gathering place, just reach out to us. Love to bring folks on and give the talk. Y'all, thank you very much for coming. And also remember, I'm glad Cedric mentioned it. In Georgetown, Tuesday, April 13th, we have a special election. Please turn out and vote on Tuesday, April 13th. That's next week, y'all. So come on out and vote. And this Friday, I just want to let everybody know that I actually did receive an award from the South Carolina African American Heritage Commission. Thank you. And this Friday at 7 p.m. is going to be the virtual show. You can register. Just go online to our Facebook page and you can register for that show. I won the Herbert DaCosta Trailblazer Award from the Heritage Commission. I do not do the work for the recognition, but when I do receive recognition, I deeply appreciate it.
Celebrate your work.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you very much. So thank you, Cedric. Thank you, Akeem. It's been wonderful to have you here. We'll see you next time.
All right. No
Thank you.
And I want to remind everyone, as our special guests leave, that our gathering place is every Wednesday and Sunday at 4 p.m. We had a wonderful show today, very good knowledge and information. But just wanted to remind you, join us every Sunday at 4 o'clock and every Wednesday at 4 for the knowledge of a gathering place. Thank you for joining us today and have a wonderful day.